GeekNet every fourth Monday at 7 p.m. W5FC. W5FC. ARRL NTS Net nightly at 6:30 p.m. W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
And does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight's Skynet? This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name's Tom. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break very enthusiastically and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on this frequency with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5SC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio video links are available online. Just go to the club website, which is w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome, and you need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is about 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. They are general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, where and when you can look through a telescope. I get to say that again after a couple of years. National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, was up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and the 73 round. We may or may not get to all of those, but we'll certainly try. Again, all amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So let's get started with, on round one, that'd be low power and short time check-ins. If you're low power or short time, please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and let me know if you're low power or short time.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra. It's Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power, 5 watts.
Okay, I picked up one, W5GUS, that's Gus in far northeast Dallas with 5 watts. Anyone else, low power, short time, please come now. Well, we won't dally. We will go right into general check-ins. If you're one of those, please come now with your call sign, phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill and Irving.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zoo, Whiskey Kane, Weber.
This is Alpha Golf 5 Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall, AG5 PM.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda and DeSoto.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
All right, we'll go ahead and get those check-ins. A little slow tonight, but I'm sure it'll pick up. I've got KF5 JHA, Chaz and Mesquite, N5BB, Bill and Irving, WB5 BZW, don't know why I wrote something different, but I did. Jay near Weatherford, AG5PM, Rich near in Rockwall, WB50ZL, Miss Brenda in DeSoto, NT5TM, Tony in Dallas, KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, that's James in Carrollton. Additional check-ins, please come now. Very unusual. Okay, well then we'll go over to Echolink. If anybody on Echolink would like to join who hasn't already checked in, please come now with your call sign, phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray. Kelly in Santa Rosa, New Mexico, and please let me know if my audio is okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have K5KTX, Miss Kelly in somewhere in New Mexico, Santa something. I got you. And yes, your audio is very good tonight. No problems whatsoever. So we've got you. Okay, I will go back and ask if there anyone else would like to check in at this point before we begin the net. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo India 5. Kilo Tango Zulu, Philip at White Rock Creek.
This is it. Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Alpha Echo 5, Foxtrot Lima, Jim in North Richland Hills.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
We picked up a few more. I got KI5KTZ, that's Philip in West Rock Creek. And then Patrick, I got KG5 Alpha, and you got covered over by someone else. Patrick, could you give me your full call again, please?
Sure thing. It's Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima.
Thank you, Patrick. I should know that, but my memories are getting shorter. KG5APL, Patrick in Dallas, I got you. AE5FL, that's Jim in North Richland Hills. KF5ZBL, Mr. Bill in Farmers Branch. Any additional check-ins before we get started? Please come now.
Kilo India 5, Charlie Yankee Alpha, AI5, Seaway, Mark, Taxi Tech.
Okay, we picked up one more. There was a double in there, so I will take another round after this. I get KI5CYA. That is Mark in Saxy. Welcome, Mark. And whoever the other station was I didn't call on, I'm calling on you now. Please come with your call name and your QTH, your location. Okay, I'm sure they're out there, but we'll get to them eventually. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come with your call. Well, we'll get to those in a little bit. Don't forget, next week will be... Is next week... see what happens when you get old? You can't remember anything. Field Day. Field Day's next week, is it not? Don't forget. Field Day is coming up. This will be June 25th, so that is next week. The ARR Field Day, the single most popular ham radio event, on-air event, held annually in the United States and Canada for all FCC licensed classes. On the fourth weekend of June of each year, more than 35,000 radio amateur operators gather with their clubs, groups, and simply with friends and family to operate from remote locations. Field Day is a picnic, a camp-out, practice for emergencies, informal contests, and most of all, fun. This year, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club will host an in-person, that's in bold letters, by the way, from the announcement, event at the Johnson Outpost YMCA in Farmers Branch. The festivities and event officially start at 1 p.m. Central Time, June 25th, but the DARC crew in true fashion will be there early at 9 a.m. for setup. The DARC will be operating as a 3 Alpha section in North Texas, NTX, and will have 3 radios on the air during the event. Come join in the fun. Additional events and details are available on the website, w5fc.org. Includes the rules, main field day page, link, hot link, as well as other things. You can also submit your log online if you're not going to be at the event directly, as has been done in the last couple of years. So if you would like to help out the DARC, and you won't be attending the event, although we wish you would, please consider doing that. All that information is on the w5fc.org website. I'll be getting into the afterglow information here in a little bit. Does anybody need any fills? Please come out.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, checking in, Clay and Mesquite.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Echo India Uniform. David, St. Paul, Texas.
All right, we got 2 more check-ins there. I got N5OF, Clay and Mesquite, KG5EIU, David in St. Paul. Let's see what else I can do for you. Our usual announcements. There is the AMSAT radio satellite group. Has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. You will need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find it under groups and AMSAT. This originates out of Houston, Texas. This is the world headquarters of AMSAT. So you can go there also. There is a live link available for audio, or just get in there on Echolink. At the same time, the Dallas AMSAT Net East in Fort Worth, right, Texas, Fort Worth to Dallas, is right here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. as well. And this repeater, Tom N5HYP, is the net control, and all are welcome to check in. Also, there's Dallas AMSAT Net West. That's on Wednesday evening. Maybe you missed the Tuesday net. Check in on Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater. That is 147.140 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 with a positive offset. Don't forget that the DARC has many nets available. If this is your first time on the repeater, I think it might be. A few folks are new at least. Mondays, we have at 7 p.m. a rotating cavalcade of nets starting at 7 o'clock. First week is Ham Fixin's net. We talk about recipes and other fun things because, as we all know, hams not only like to eat, they like to cook. And the second week is MCOM 101, a non-denominational, everyone can check in net. Find out everything you need to know about helping served agencies and which groups you might want to be a part of. Representatives from those different organizations will be available to answer your questions. Third week, Monday, is HamFix second helping of Ham Fixin's Net. On the fourth week is GeekNet. We expand out from amateur radio, although that is always kind of our main topic. Talk about all things geeky. So if you have something you'd like to bring or you'd like to be brought up to date on really cool stuff, fourth week on the 4th at 7 p.m. is always good. Fifth week is a surprise net. We told you what it was. It wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. In fact, it is almost demanded because we do all sorts of interactive stuff on that net. I'm not sure when the next one's coming up. We just had one here last month. Let's see, I told you about Tuesdays. Don't forget Fridays, our Search City simulation at 8 p.m. You can learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH, is usually the net control and has some alternate controls along with her. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday, Search City, and all are welcome. In fact, there's some really fun nets on Friday evening. That is a really fun net on Friday evening. Let's see, Saturdays, of course, is the night of nets. From 7 to 8 is TechNet, which just concluded here. And then from 9 until 10:30 is Skynet, and then at 10:30 to about midnight is the Afterglow Movie Net, which I'm going to tell you about right now. Also, by the way, don't forget, daily at 6:30, is the ARRL National Traffic System Training Net. If you've never been on a training net, ever been on a formalized traffic net or a formalized net, this is a great place to learn. And it's a training net, so you can do no wrong. So come on by. Everybody is welcome, 6:30 until 7. Now, information about tonight's Afterglow movie. Here we go. The conductor eyed the two people in car 6. One was a reporter, and the other, his evil twin, a photographer. He knew both could be trouble. The rail line had a terrible safety record. In fact, they had lost half the passengers on this particular route just last week. They even had to refund money to the families. That was an expensive proposition. These guys might know about the horrendous safety record. The conductor took drastic action and unhooked the rail car. Both men were somewhat dull and didn't realize the car was now disconnected and the train chugged into the sunset. Their car came to a stop on a side track. The writer said to his photographer, "I don't think we're in Kansas anymore." They gazed at the mad scientist who was standing with his gamma ray machine irradiating local children. Some became geniuses. The others would become conductors on a rail line who regularly lost their passengers. Join us for one of the weirder movies that we've viewed from 1956, The Gamma People, at 10:30 p.m. And you know what? It's okay. You don't have to have seen the movie. If you'd like to find out more about it, just come on by at 10:30, maybe take a nap, whatever, fall asleep in your chair, whatever it takes so that you can be here at 10:30. You can keep up with all of the DARC events, nets, and activities, as well as Field Day for next week by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Are there any questions about that particular bit of news? Please come with your call. Okay, next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. I'm going to hand that one to Chaz since he sent me info on that. So KF5JHA, have at it, sir, from KE5ICX.
Why, thank you, Tom. This is KF5JHA, Chaz, and the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas club meeting will be held on just a little bit less than a week from now. It's going to be on Friday, June the 24th. And that'll be at 7:30 p.m., held at the University of Dallas, University of Texas at Dallas, right on Campbell Road. It's going to be in person, but also online. So if you don't attend it, members will receive a link to the Zoom meeting in advance of the meeting. Probably sometime in the next few days, they'll get the link. Dr. Howard, let's see now, I'm doing this blind because my computer just rebooted, and hopefully it'll come up sometime before I get the What's Up segment. Anyway, Dr. Howard is the optical technician, the head one for the James Webb Telescope, so that'll be an interesting meeting. Also, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas observing sessions have started again, the star parties. There's one that happens in Garland on the first Saturday of each month, and that has resumed. That resumed several months ago. Another one in Cedar Hill is beginning next weekend, and there's more that will be coming online again. In the past, we had Saturday observing sessions almost every Saturday, and that's one of the reasons why Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so we could get live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Star Party observing sessions. So if you want more information about all that, go to the texasastro.org website to get information about the meetings and the observing sessions. Sorry, I'm stumbling because right now I'm doing this all from the top of my head. I don't have my script in front of me. KF5, JHA, back to our net control. I think it's all yours, Tom.
All right, thank you, Chaz. And anytime I have the script right here, I can read it in your voice, because I can. Oh, by the way, it's Dr. Joe Howard. He's actually two of the Three Stooges, apparently, Joe. And well, Joe Howard, that would be one of the Three Stooges, wouldn't it? I don't know. Joe Howard, is he one of the... Is he the brother? I don't think so. Never mind. It was a joke gone terribly wrong. He is the lead optical designer for the James Webb Telescope, so he's got to be really smart and with very good eyesight. All right, next up is Bill, N5BB. I believe he did check in. In fact, he did. He's number 4 on my check-in list. Bill, what do you have for us for the National Space Society of North Texas from KE5ICX?
Tom, this is N5BB. Yep, maybe like Hotel California, I can check in, but I can't check out. Anyway, I am here. I happen to be this is N5BB. I happen to be the membership director of the local North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. If you have any questions or interest in the National Space Society, including our local chapter, you can reach me at space@byram.net. That's SPACE @byram.net, or N5BB@ARRL.net via email. The National Space Society North Texas chapter, by the way, this is the award-winning chapter. We won the Chapter of the Year award this year at the International Space Development Conference in Washington, D.C. over Memorial Day weekend. And we've won that award several times over the last few years. Anyway, our chapter meets on the second Sunday afternoons of each month. So our next meeting will be the second Sunday of July, which will be July the 10th. Our June meeting was this last Sunday afternoon, and Ken Ruffin, our president of our chapter, gave a very good presentation on the danger and possible solutions with near-Earth asteroids. So that was very interesting. The next major event we have coming up is Moon Day, which will be on July the 16th, Saturday, at the Frontiers of Flight Museum, adjacent to Love Field. Be there or be square. That's all I got, Tom. Oh, by the way, you can do a search for National Space Society North Texas chapter, and we have a Facebook page, and we also have a website, which unfortunately hasn't been updated much recently. Call me if you have any questions, or contact me. This is N5BB. That's all I got.
thank you, Bill. And I've got to start putting the announcements in for Moon Day. We'll be there as well, along with the AMSAT group and you. We're a tight group. We're all together at the Moon Day, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of activity. Fred Hayes, the lunar module pilot from Apollo 13, the ill-fated Apollo 13, will be there as our guest of honor. So we're looking forward to seeing him. I've talked to him a couple of times, and he's a really interesting guy. Hopefully you get a chance to see him. Hopefully you get a chance to come to Moon Day as well. All right. Well, tonight my topic is the Artemis program components. Now my topic is a little short, so what I want to do is I want to go ahead and read a latest update from NASA. This was a few hours ago. It says NASA's on track to begin an approximately 2-day wet dress rehearsal for the agency's Artemis program. This is the big new rocket, as big as the Saturn V, or pretty close, that will be launching crews back to the moon. The test will begin at approximately 5 p.m. There's no updates on this. I'm not sure what happens outside of they do a tanking facility, tanking the spacecraft over on pad 39B. When the launch team arrives at their consoles inside the Launch Control Center at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, the rehearsal will run the Artemis 1 launch team through operations to load propellant into the rocket's tanks, conduct a full launch countdown, demonstrate the ability to recycle the countdown clock, and also drain the tanks to give them an opportunity to practice the timelines and procedures that we will use for launch. Approximate times for milestones for the test are below. During the test, the timing for some events on account of several planned operational demonstrations tied to the specific capabilities and test objectives may differ from the day of launch countdown. That's always their exculpatory there. These demonstrations include tests on cryogenic systems and approximately 3-minute hold inside the terminal count that would not normally occur on launch day. If needed, the test team may also hold as necessary to verify conditions before resuming the countdown, or use the test window or extend beyond it if consumables and resources allow them to complete test objectives. So remember, this goes on for a couple of days. Actually, it looks like it goes through June 20th. Today's the 18th. So they have a timeline here. You go to nasa.gov for additional information on that. But here we go. I'm going to tell you my topic here. This actually comes from the Planetary Society and was recently updated. The Artemis program components, I'm calling it because that's exactly what it is all about. So the first question is, what is the Artemis program? Well, humans have not left Earth orbit since Apollo 17 returned from the moon in 1972. NASA has been trying to change that since 2004, and then President George W. Bush announced the Vision for Space Exploration, an initiative to send humans back to the moon and eventually to land on Mars. Since then, NASA's deep space efforts have been had a number of names. Constellation, from 2004 to 2010, targeted lunar surface and Mars. Journey to Mars, 2015 to 2018, targeted CIS lunar space and an asteroid and Mars. And Moon to Mars, 2018 to present, targeting lunar surface and Mars. So its current Artemis program, through its current Artemis program, NASA envisions sending astronauts to the lunar South Pole by 2025 and eventually establishing a permanent presence on the moon. The program is the result of the Trump administration's Space Policy Directive 1 and on March 26, 2019, speech by Vice President Mike Pence directing NASA to reach the moon by 2024. Artemis is designed to land humans on the moon quickly by 2025 and focus on Mars as the long-term human spaceflight goal after that. The preliminary short-term plan involves using both commercial rockets and NASA's Space Launch System, the Orion crew capsule, and a commercial lunar landing system. A small space station in lunar orbit called the Gateway would serve future surface missions. The Planetary Society's principles for human spaceflight lay out how we evaluate, support, and critique proposed plans for human spaceflight. flight. So, what is the Space Launch System, or SLS? It's a massive rocket based on Space Shuttle-derived technology. This is essentially a larger version of the shuttle stack that trades out the winged orbiter for either cargo or an Orion crew capsule on top. The vehicle's core stage is a stretched shuttle external tank powered by 4 Space Shuttle RS-25 engines. During the Space Shuttle program, these engines were refurbished and reused. For SLS, they will be ditched in the ocean. Assisting the core stage during the initial phase of flight is a pair of 5-segment Space Shuttle solid boosters. Next is the crew vehicle called Orion. It is capable of supporting up to 4 astronauts on deep space journeys, similar in concept but have a larger interior than that of the gumdrop-shaped Apollo capsules. Unlike capsules designed solely for transportation to low Earth orbit, Orion's heat shield can withstand the high-velocity re-entry necessary when returning from deep space. The Orion Spacecraft re-entry necessary when returning... the Orion Spacecraft consists of 3 major components: a pressurized crew capsule, a service module, and a launch abort tower, which is normally jettisoned during ascent. Next is the Lunar Gateway. Now, I found a picture of the latest revised version of this. This thing is growing by leaps and bounds. Just to give you a description of it, it's quite interesting, and I'll explain what it is. It's got a power and propulsion unit globbed onto the end. There's an ESPRIT module, a U.S. utilization module, an international habitation module, a logistics that's a resupply vehicle. It's got a robotic arm, a U.S. habitation module, which is what it had originally, and a multi-purpose module. And then there's the Orion crew module and service module that will dock towards the end of this on its axis. So it's about a third larger than what it was originally proposed as. There's if you're watching the video stream, you'll see a picture of it. It's also available on the notes under Lunar Gateway. The Lunar Gateway is a small space station in lunar orbit that would function as a fuel and supplies depot, a science outpost, and a waypoint for missions to and from the lunar surface. The Gateway is currently not required to be operational for the initial 2025 moon landing. NASA is asking commercial companies to provide gateway transportation systems services similar to the way it does for the International Space Station. Next is Capstone. NASA will send a small spacecraft called Capstone, CIS Lunar Autonomous Positioning System Technology Operations and Navigation Experiment in 2022 to the same lunar orbit Gateway will occupy. In fact, I've read out the times when this will launch, and I will do so again towards the end of the net. The microwave oven-based CubeSat will test out a number of key technologies critical for Artemis during spacecraft communication using the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. Boy, I'm having trouble talking tonight. And then finally, NASA selected a Blue Origin-led Team Dynetics and SpaceX Starship to develop new moon landers for the astronauts for the agency's Artemis lunar program. NASA is asking commercial companies to build lunar lander systems that would eventually dock with the Gateway. A visiting Orion crew would board the lander, take it to the surface, and return in either an ascent module or the entire vehicle. Early landers would only be capable of short surface stays, while future vehicles would be able to house crews through the lunar night. So when you're talking about a lunar night, you're talking 2 weeks. So it will be an extended trip and time on the moon. So over the coming weeks and months, I'll probably elaborate on these. It's kind of an overview. about what each of these elements will bring to the missions in more detail and as they become more well-known. So that's it. Kind of brief this evening, but I thought you might be interested. I had to come up with something. I realized, oh my goodness, it's my night to be the net control. So I found this over on National Space Society, or I'm sorry, the Planetary Society. Get your societies correct, Tom. The Planetary Society, which is a very interesting organization, interested in space flight and space technologies. Okay, let me go ahead and ask if there's any additional check-ins before we move to the next section, which is Was Up. Hopefully Chaz's computer is back, but first, let's go ahead and see if there's any additional check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Let me go ahead and pick up. There's actually 3 there. I've got one that is actively chatting over there on Echolink, and that would be N5IMS, JJ, and Carrollton. I've got Ted, WB4MFI in Dallas. Welcome back, Ted. KB5SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. Welcome back, Sean. All right, we will now go to Chaz, KF5JHA. What do you have and what's up from KE5ICX?
Well, thank you, Tom. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. I work at the Astrophysics Labs and Geology Labs at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. We call this segment of Skynet Was Up. And yes, I'm on a backup computer. This is great. That was slide number 1, Slide Master. By the way, our net control is the Slide Master, so thank you, Tom. Slide number 2. On June the 14th, the moon was full. The current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. In fact, I saw it this morning. It was nice, pretty blue sky, not a cloud in the sky, and then actually there was some rain in Mesquite and Garland this afternoon. On June the 20th, the moon is at its 3rd quarter phase. On June the 28th, the moon is new. On June the 29th, the moon will be at apogee, what is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,580 kilometers. On July the 7th, the moon will be at 1st quarter phase. On July the 13th, the moon will be full. Also on July the 13th, the moon will be at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 357,264 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. Now, if you were up really early this morning, you were able to see a conjunction of the moon and Saturn in the early morning southern sky. Let me ask, are there any hams on Skynet that actually observe this? Would they like to make a report? Come now with your call sign if you'd like to make a report on this.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa, Lima, Lima.
There he is, the early riser. Huey, go ahead. Tell us what you saw.
I saw a waning gibbous moon about 2 fingers length to the southeast of Saturn. Saturn looks like a rather small star, basically. Its color, though, is cream, is slightly different than other stars. What I found interesting as well is looking all through the ecliptic, I could pick out the naked, visible eye planet. there was a time not that long ago where we had to be right up after sunrise, before sunrise, to actually see the planets. And now they are clearly in the sky at 3 in the morning because Jupiter was quite visible above the east horizon, good 20 degrees above. Very clear, very calm, very humid. So for that time of the morning is precious because when you live in the city, it's the only time it's quiet. KF5, PLL, back to net.
Thank you, Huey. That is what it's all about, is going out and looking at the real nighttime sky, or morning sky. That's part of nighttime, isn't it, before the sun comes up? All right, Slide Master, slide number 4, please. On June the 21st, Jupiter and the Moon will be in conjunction, so just a couple of days from now, in the early morning southeastern sky, and Mars will not be too far away. Now, Slide Master, on slide number 5, I want to talk about something else that happens on June 21st. At 4:14 a.m. Central Daylight Time is the moment of the summer solstice for the Northern Hemisphere. This is the longest day and shortest night for the Northern Hemisphere. The sun rises and sets at its furthest northern point on the horizon. This is the result of the Earth's tilt on its axis of rotation, about 23.5 degrees. On June 21st, the Northern Hemisphere is more directly pointed toward the sun than at any other time of the year. So we can celebrate that in a couple of days. Slide Master, slide number 6, please. Very next morning on June 22nd, Mars and the Moon are in conjunction in the early morning southeastern sky, with Jupiter not too far away. Remember, Jupiter and the Moon were close together just a couple of days before that. On Slide Master, slide number 7, on June 22nd as well, in the low early morning sky, you'll be able to see and observe Venus and the Pleiades. So if you're counting this, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus are all sort of alignment in the early morning sky right now. Easy to find. And I'll give you a clue as to another planet you could find in just a moment. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 8, please. The Moon and Venus will be in conjunction on June the 26th in the early morning northeastern sky. Slide Master, slide number 9. The June Boötes meteor shower maximum is on June the 26th, 27th. The zenith hourly rate will somewhere between nothing up to more than 100. Sometimes it occasionally gets to what we call storm levels. That would be more than 300 or 400 in an hour. I always suggest that you go camping at one of the 89. I found out just earlier, I renewed my state parks pass. There are 89 state parks and wildlife natural areas. Remember that usually the best time to watch meteors is the hour before dawn. And Slide Master, slide number 10. On June the 27th, the Moon and the planet Mercury will be in conjunction in the early morning east-northeastern sky. It's going to be strong twilight. You might need a pair of binoculars to spot both the Moon and Mercury. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 11, please. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, June the 24th. Told you about that earlier at 7:30 p.m. It's going to be in person as well as on Zoom. In person at the University of Dallas, that's on Campbell Road. Featured speaker will be Dr. Joe Howard from NASA. He's the lead optical designer for the James Webb Space Telescope. I got most of that right when I talked about that earlier. And the Saturday night public observing sessions have begun, and they were picked, Skynet was picked, to be on Saturday nights to coincide with that so we could get live reports from the test public observing sessions. There's not one, as far as I know, going on tonight, so we're not going to get any reports. But go to texasastro.org to up-to-minute details and meetings, information, public observing stations, and much more. How to buy a telescope, how to buy binoculars, and much more on the website. Slide Master, slide number 12. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any information? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you've got a question.
W5GUS.
No, Gus, it's easy to figure out who you are with your call sign. Gus, go ahead.
Thanks, Chaz. I don't know if this would be, it probably wouldn't be astronomy as much as astrophysics, maybe. I was reading a report from NASA. They were working on a new solar sail, to improve on the reflective surface of the light sails that are currently being used. Working on a diffractive light sail, and they were all excited about this might be working, and they were mentioned also. They were real excited about it because they're going to use it to orbit around our sun. And what I was curious about on their statement about going to use the new diffractive light sails around the sun is that the orbit's polar solar orbit is harder. They were saying it's like over the north and south pole of the sun are hard to achieve with current conventional spacecraft propulsion. That's why they were all excited about on Twitter about these new light sails. But I was wondering why would it be harder to have a north-south polar orbit around our sun than the other orbits. So anyway, that was the question. They were saying it was harder to orbit north-south pole with the current conventional spacecraft propulsion. So anyway, I don't know if that would be in your field or not, but that was my question. Back to net, back to you, Chaz. W5GUS. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Gus. Actually, my degree is in astrophysics, so part of the reason is because of the planetary poles are all in roughly the same plane. And to get out of that, it takes a little bit more energy to have a north, to go around to the north-south orbits. That's my best guess at this point, but I'd have to read that article or that information that you're given just to see if that's the case. But I think that's probably what's going on. Thank you very much. Kelly, I see that you're camping out there. You have some information on maybe this spacecraft that's using solar sails. Do you want to say anything? Go ahead. Kelly, K5KTX.
K5KTX, and I guess I must be a little bit behind. I've heard of the light sails before, but through the Planetary Society, they were working on launching one of their own, but I haven't heard of any that NASA is doing. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer. So this is K5KTX.
Now, don't go away. You said you're camping, but it's not under dark sky conditions. Go ahead. Tell us what you're doing.
K5KTX. Well, I guess I'm getting my kicks on Route 66. I'm currently in Santa Rosa, New Mexico, which is right on the historic Route 66, somewhere west of Tucumcari, and on my way to Tejas, New Mexico tomorrow. So, and then a week in Colorado after that. So, but no dark skies here. I'm too close to Interstate 40, and there's a lot of lights in town. So. No dark skies for me. K5KTX.
For those of you that are not familiar, K5KTX. She's the mayor of Kelly, Texas, of course. And so just thought I'd let everyone know that she's a world traveler, and you're finding that out right now. So, all right, thank you so much. Thanks for the reports. Okay, so as the moon wanes at the end of June, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep for our world. It's the only one where humans live. Until the next time, well, that'll be in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up, and this is Chaz, KF5JHA. Back to our net control. I think that is Tom, KE5ICX. I call him Grandpa of Skynet.
Gee, thank you, Chaz. Since we did this together hand in hand, does that make you the great-grandpa? I'm not sure. Okay, well, let's see. Next is, it's Kelly, K5KTX. She has space exploration and space history. So let's go ahead and get started with her. K5KTX, what do you have for us this evening?
Thank you, Tom. This is K5KTX again, and good evening, everyone. So I was also hoping to have some information about Artemis because they're about to do a 2-day dry test or a wet test or something. Sorry, I'm a little weary of travel. Been driving for the last 2 days, but I didn't have any. It was supposed to start today, but I think it must have got pushed back. I haven't heard nothing, so I will move on to something else. So NASA will fly 2 astronaut test pilots aboard the agency's Boeing Crew Flight Test, or CFT, mission to the International Space Station, where they will live and work off of the Earth for about 2 weeks. CFT Commander Barry Butch Wilmore, whom NASA assigned to the prime crew in October of 2020, will join NASA astronaut Sonny Williams, who will serve as pilot. Williams previously served as the backup test pilot for CFT while assigned as commander of NASA's Boeing Starliner 1 mission, Starliner's first post-certification mission. As CFT pilot, Williams takes the place of NASA astronaut Nicole Mann, originally assigned to the mission in 2018. NASA reassigned Mann to the agency's SpaceX Crew 5 mission in 2021. NASA astronaut Mike Fink, whom the agency previously assigned as the Joint Operations Commander for CFT, will now train as the backup spacecraft test pilot and remains eligible for assignment to a future mission. Fink's unique expertise will continue to benefit the team as he retains his position as flight test lead, filling a vital role in Starliner certification. On current space station resources and scheduling needs, a short-duration mission with 2 astronaut test pilots is sufficient to meet all NASA and Boeing test objectives for CFT, which will include demonstrating Starliner's ability to safely fly operational crewed missions to and from the space station. To protect against unforeseen events with crew transportation to the station, NASA may extend the CFT dock duration up to 6 months and add an additional astronaut later if needed. Wilmore, Williams, and Fink each have flown previously as long-duration crew members aboard the space station. Meanwhile, NASA and Boeing are continuing to conduct OFT2 data reviews while assessing future CFT launch opportunities. Following successful completion of the uncrewed OFT2 mission, the Starliner crew module has returned to Boeing's Commercial Crew and Cargo Processing Facility at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where it will undergo system checkouts and vehicle inspections. The Starliner team is in the process of delivering the initial test flight data to NASA and jointly determining forward work ahead of a crewed flight. These engineering and program reviews are expected to continue for several weeks, culminating in a launch schedule assessment at the end of July based on spacecraft readiness, space station scheduling needs, and eastern range availability. For the crewed flight test, Boeing's Starliner will launch aboard a United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket from Space Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Following a successful CFT mission, NASA will begin the final process of certifying the Starliner spacecraft and systems for crew missions in the space station to the space station. Tom is reporting that I have no audio, but then he said it's been fixed, so I will continue on in space history on June the 16th. Also in 1963, the Soviet cosmonaut Valentina Tereshkova became the first woman in space. After launching on Vostok 6, her spacecraft came within 3 miles of Vostok 5, launched June the 14th. She radioed Valery Vykovsky, the cosmonaut aboard Vostok 5, and ground using the call sign Taika, or means seagull in Russian. She circled Earth 48 times before landing on June the 19th. On June the 18th, in 1983, Sally Ride became the first American woman in space when STS-7 Challenger launched. Ride was selected as an astronaut candidate in January 1978, along with 34 other people. She worked as a Capcom on the STS-2 and STS-3 missions before being selected for STS-7. Ride was a payload specialist on STS-7. She also worked as a payload specialist on STS-41G, her second and final space flight. Before retiring from NASA, she worked at NASA headquarters as special assistant to the administrator for long-range and strategic planning. Finally tonight, astronaut birthdays for this past week. We just have two. June the 13th, 1945 was Ronald Grabe. He was part of Space Shuttle missions STS-51J, STS-30, 42, and 57. And then June the 16th, 1940, Taylor Wang, who was on Space Shuttle mission STS-51B. That's all I've got this evening. Back to you, Tom. K5KTX.
Thank you, Miss Kelly, for doing that, and sorry about the audio problem. The Echolink radio just quit, which I've never seen it do before, and I had to just plug it back in and start working again. So very weird. It's never done that one before. Hopefully it won't do it again. By the way, Suni Williams, who you were mentioning earlier in your presentation, has been to the Moon Day and presented. I met her as well. So very interesting lady. Was on one of the as a commercial passenger on SpaceX, I think. Any rate, very interesting. All right, next up is back to Chaz and the constellation of the week. Let me get set up for the video for the slides for that. And Chaz, go ahead. What do you got for us from KE5ITX?
Thank you, Tom. And thanks for kicking the Echolink radio. I guess that made it work. Slide master, that would be Tom. Slide number 14 on my slide deck. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. So there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations. So Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week this week is Lepus the Wolf. The stars that now form the constellation used to be part of a constellation Centaurus. Together they represented a sacrificial animal impaled by the centaur. The centaur is holding it toward the constellation of Ara, the altar. The constellation was not associated with any animal in particular until the Renaissance times, when the Latin translation of Ptolemy's work identified it as a wolf. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 15. What you've been waiting for the last couple of weeks. Well, last week, I don't know what happened, but I sort of overlooked the jokes. I am so sorry, everyone. I apologize. So here we go. What do you call a wolf that studies philosophy? A self-aware wolf. Okay. The husband said, "Honey, I think I just saw a wolf." The wife said, "Where?" And the husband said, "No, just a regular one." Get it? Where? Just a regular one? Okay. What do you call a house that turns into a wolf during full moon? A warehouse. I saw a stage production of The Three Little Pigs yesterday. The pigs were pretty boring, but the wolf really brought down the house. Get it? The pigs were boring, the wolf brought down the house? Oh, well, okay. Mozart runs into the bar, and he's scratched, and he's bleeding, and he can barely stand. The bartender asks, "What's wrong? What happened?" Mozart gasps, and then he collapses on the floor and says, "I was just attacked by a Wolfgang, and now I'm dazed." Now, if you don't know classical music, you're in big trouble. You didn't get that one. Okay. The Invisible Man and the Wolfman and Dracula were playing poker. Okay, there's a lot of things you can put into this one, but here we go. They tried to get the mummy to play, but he had no skin in the game. The Invisible Man tried to bluff, but most people saw right through him. Dracula ended up bleeding them dry and leaving the werewolf man howling mad. Okay, that's enough for the moment. Slide Master, slide number 16. Miss Killen was heavily involved with variable stars, so it is fitting that the three stars I've chosen to cover are all three variable stars. Alpha Lupine is the brightest star in the constellation of Lepus. Its apparent magnitude is 2.3 and is approximately 460 light years distance from the Earth. It is 10 times more massive than the Sun, about 25,000 times more luminous. Alpha Lupine is classified as a beta Cepheid variable. It exhibits periodic variations in luminosity as a result of pulsations. Tom, you're not the only ones having problems tonight with pronunciations and talking. Pulsations in its atmosphere. It has a period of about 7 hours and 6 minutes. Beta Lupine is the second brightest star in Lepus. Its apparent magnitude is 2.68, and it's approximately 383 light years distance from the Earth. Like Alpha Lupine, it's classified as a beta Cepheid variable with a multivariable period. The dominant period is about 5 hours, 34 minutes. Supernova remnant, SN1006, which I'll talk about later, is close by. Delta Lupine is another blue-white subgiant. Its apparent magnitude is 3.22. It's approximately 900 light years from the Earth and the Sun. The star is about 10,000 times more luminous than the Sun and has about 12 times the mass. It's also classified as a beta Cepheid variable. It has a period of about 4 hours. Slide Master, slide number 17, please. NGC 5986, NGC stands for New General Catalog, is a globular cluster. It's 33,900 light years distance from the Earth. The cluster has approximately an apparent magnitude of 7.5, and it can be found about 2.5 degrees west-northwest of the star Eta Lupine. Slide number 18, please. NGC 5927 is another globular cluster located near the border of the constellation Norma. Yes, there is a constellation Norma. It has an apparent magnitude of 8 and is approximately 24,800 light years distance from the Earth. The cluster was discovered by James Dunlop in 1826. Slide Master, slide number 19. NGC 5882 is a planetary nebula in Lepus. It is a apparent magnitude of 9.4. It is also known as the ghost of Uranus because of its size and color, close to that of Uranus in telescopes. Should be something you could look at. Slide Master, slide number 20, please. NGC 5822 is a challenge object because it is so low in the sky it never gets higher than about 3 degrees above the horizon here in North Texas. NGC 5822 is a large open cluster about 6,000 light years from the Earth. Its apparent magnitude is 10.28. Slide Master, slide number 21. Supernova remnant 1006 is a supernova remnant that cannot be seen from the surface of the Earth. What? The image was taken that you're seeing on the video portion by Chandra, the X-ray spectrum that it can do. Why I am talking about this unseeable object, supernova 1006, it's important because it was a supernova that is likely the brightest ever observed in recorded history, reaching an estimate of 7 minus 7.5 visual magnitude. In other words, roughly 16 times brighter than Venus is, and when Venus is at its brightest. Appearing between April the 30th and May the 1st in the year 1006, in the constellation of Lepus. This guest star was described by observers across the modern-day countries of China, Japan, Iraq, Egypt, and some of the continent of Europe, and possibly even recorded in North America in petroglass. Some reports state that it was clearly visible in the daytime. Venus is visible in the daytime, and it's not nearly that bright, so I'm sure it was visible in the daytime. Modern astronomers now consider that its distance from the Earth to be about 7,200 light years. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 22. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Lepus, the Wolf. I've just given you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has about 73 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide Master, slide number 23. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Lepus the Wolf. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson, Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next time, I'm going to take a look at Scorpius the Scorpion. And, Tom, I had forgotten that we did start Skynet at the same time, didn't we? So does that make me another grandpa? This is KF5JJ sending it back to our net control. It's all yours, Tom. KE5ICX. Good night, everyone.
Very good. Thank you, Grandpa. Thank you for doing the presentations this evening. They're always appreciated. You got to remember, when he puts these things together, of course he begs, borrows, and steals, but he still has to put all this stuff together, so we appreciate it. Here, next up is space launches for this week. Guess what? That one's mine. I steal all my material from spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. So here are some of the ones. Some of these may sound familiar from last week, but they do come and go and are canceled and added to. So I'll give you a few of the ones going through June. We have from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California on let me see, what is the date? Oh, June 18th. There we go. Falcon 9 rocket will launch the Sarah-1 radar remote sensing satellite for the German military. Sarah-1 is the first of 3 synthetic aperture radar satellites for the German military. On June 19th, the Falcon 9 will launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch a spare satellite for Global Stars Messaging and Data Relay Network. Other unidentified payloads may be on this launch. The Falcon 9 first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. June 21st will be a launch of the PV-SAT. This is the South Korean rocket. Will launch on its second orbital test flight from Naro Space Center in South Korea. The Korea Space Launch Vehicle 2, or Nuri rocket, was developed by the Korea Aerospace Research Institute. On June 22nd will be an Ariane 5 launch from Kourou, French Guiana. And a Ariane 5 ECA rocket designated VA257 to launch the MESAT 3D and GSAT 24 communication satellites. The satellite payloads will be the MESAT 3D multi-mission communication satellite outfitted with C-band, Ku-band, and Ka-band payloads for direct-to-home TV broadcasting and internet services for Asia and the Middle East and Africa. GSAT 24 is a direct-to-home TV broadcasting satellite for the India Space Research Organization. And then here it is, what we've all been waiting for, as mentioned earlier. June 25th will be the Capstone launch. This is Launch Complex 1B in Mahia Peninsula in New Zealand. The Rocket Lab Electron rocket will launch NASA's CIS Lunar Autonomous Positioning System Technology Operations and Technology and Navigation Experiment, or Capstone, mission to the moon. Capstone will fly to the moon on Rocket Lab's Photon space tug, entering a unique halo-like lunar orbit to test deep space navigation communications in the same orbit to be used by NASA's Gateway mini space station. Oh, wait a minute, we got June, I see. Hold on. Having a little trouble with my formatting here. On sometime in late June will be Starlink 4-21 launched from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. This will be a Falcon 9 rocket will launch another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. Falcon 9 first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. SSLV will be launched, no date yet, Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, India. The SSLV will launch its first orbital test flight consisting of 3 solid-fueled stages and a liquid-fueled upper stage. The SSLV is a new Indian launch vehicle designed to carry small satellites into low Earth orbit. June 28th, Falcon 9 again, SCS-22, communication satellite for the SCS of Luxembourg. That's all it says about it. On June 29th, we have an Atlas V USSF-12 launch from SLC-41 at Cape Canaveral. The United Launch Alliance Atlas V will launch a USSF-12 mission with Wide Field of View, or WFOV, experimental missile warning satellite for the U.S. Space Force. WFOV hosts a new type of infrared starring sensor in geosynchronous orbit to detect the heat from missile launch plumes. The 12 mission will include additional rideshare payloads. The rocket will fly in a 541 configuration with a 5-meter fairing, 4 solid rocket boosters, and a single Centaur upper stage engine. And then finally, on June 30th, will be a launch from Cosmic Girl, a Boeing 747 from the Mojave Air and Space Port in California. A Virgin Orbit Launcher 1 rocket will launch on its 5th flight after dropping from a modified Boeing 747 carrier jet. The mission will be Virgin Orbit's 3rd operational launch, carrying 7 small satellites for governmental agencies, sponsored by the U.S. Military Space Test Program. This one's designated STP-28A. And that's it from me. I'll go ahead and take additional check-ins, and then we will move on to recent astronomical discoveries. Do we have any additional check-ins? I do have KFIPLL, that's Huey from his report, and KI5KTZ, that's Philippe. Somewhere, he's over on Echolink, but I got him checked in. So, anyone else?
Kilo 0 Foxtrot Echo Romeo, Chris in Dallas.
Kilo India 5 Uniform Juliet, Dustin in North Dallas.
Kilo India 5 Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruz in Arlington.
Bravo 4, Alpha India Zulu, Chuck in Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida.
All right, excellent. We have 4 check-ins on that. The Kilo 0 call, I had a brain lock. Would you give me your full call, your name, and where you're transmitting from, please?
Kilo 0 Foxtrot Echo Romeo, Chris in Southeast Dallas.
All right, that's K0FER, Chris in Southeast Dallas. I'm sorry, as soon as I lost your call, I lost everything else. I just had a brain lock, but I got you checked in. KI5UUJ, that's Justin in North Dallas. KI5KWG, that's Cruz in Arlington. KG4AIZ, that's Chuck, somewhere in Florida, over Echolink. Welcome, Chuck. We do this every week. All right, next up is recent astronomical discoveries. That's handled by Brenda at WB50ZL. Miss Brenda, tell us what we need to know this week from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This is WB50ZL. This article is entitled Martian Meteorite Upsets Planet Formation Theory. A new study of an old meteorite contradicts current thinking about how rocky planets like the Earth and Mars acquire volatile elements such as hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and noble gases as they form. This work was published in June 16th, Science. A basic assumption about planet formation is that planets first collect these volatiles from the nebula around a young star, said Sandrine Perron, a postdoctoral scholar working with Professor Sujoy Mukhopadhyay in the Department of Earth and Planetary Sciences, University of California, Davis. Because the planet is a ball of molten rock at this point. These elements initially dissolve into the magma ocean and then degas back into the atmosphere. Later on, chondritic meteorites crashing into the young planet deliver more volatile materials. So scientists expect that the volatile elements in the interior of the planet should reflect the composition of the solar nebula, or a mixture of solar and meteoritic volatiles. While the volatiles in the atmosphere could come mostly from meteorites. These two sources, solar versus chondritic, could be distinguished by the ratios of isotopes of noble gases, in particular krypton. Mars is of special interest because it formed relatively quickly, solidifying in about 4 million years after the birth of the solar system, while the Earth took 50 to 100 million years to form. We can reconstruct the history of volatile delivery in the first few million years of the solar system, Perron said. Some meteorites that fall to Earth come from Mars. Most come from surface rocks that have been exposed to Mars's atmosphere. The Chassigny meteorite, which fell to Earth in northeastern France in 1815, is rare and unusual because it's thought to represent the interior of the planet. By making extremely careful measurements of minute quantities of krypton isotopes in samples of the meteorite using a new method set up at the UC Davis Noble Gas Laboratory, the researchers could deduce the origin of elements in the rock. Because of their low abundance, krypton isotopes are challenging to measure, Perron said. Surprisingly, the krypton isotopes in the meteorite correspond to those from chondritic meteorites, not the solar nebula. That means that meteorites were delivering volatile elements to the forming planet much earlier than previously thought, and in the presence of the nebula, reversing conventional thinking. The Martian interior composition for krypton is nearly purely chondritic, but the atmosphere is solar, Perron said. It's very distinct. The results show that Mars' atmosphere cannot have formed purely by outgassing from the mantle, as that would have given it a chondritic composition. The planet must have acquired atmosphere from the solar nebula after the magma ocean cooled to prevent substantial mixing between interior chondritic gases and atmospheric solar gases. The new results suggest that Mars' growth was completed before the solar nebula was dissipated by radiation from the sun. But the irradiation should also have blown off the nebula atmosphere on Mars, suggesting that atmospheric krypton must have somehow been preserved, possibly trapped underground or in polar ice caps. However, that would require Mars to have been cold in the immediate aftermath of its accretion, Podhay said. While our study clearly points to the chondritic gases in the Martian interior, it also raises some interesting questions about the origin and composition of Mars's early atmosphere. They hope their study will stimulate further work on the topic. Back to net. This is from ScienceDaily.com. Back to net, WB5OZL.
All right, well, thank you, Brenda. And this is KE5ICX, and this is Skynet. All right, well, we still have some time here, so we'll move on to the next section, which is visible satellite passes. Over the next couple of days, the ISS has a couple of them. It's been kind of absent the last couple of weeks, but it has come back. June 23rd has a great pass. This is, I'll throw it up here on the screen. June 23rd has a minus 3.7 magnitude at 5:36 a.m. out of the southwest, reaches its highest point at 5:39 at 74 degrees, and then falls to 5:43 to the northeast. So that's, of course, in the morning. Then June 26, minus 3.6 magnitude at 4:50 a.m. at 39 degrees, reaches its highest point at 60 degrees at 4:51, and it'll fall to 4:54 to the northeast. Tiangong 1 or not, no, it's not Tiangong 1 anymore. They don't call it that. It's just called Tiangong. It's got several. June 20th has a good pass. This will be a 2.4 magnitude at 4:57 a.m., reaches its highest point at 5 o'clock, and then at 5:03 falls to the east. Then on the 21st, the following day, 1.1 magnitude. This one's directly overhead. It goes at 4:37 out of the west to northwest, reaches its highest point at 4:38 at 78 degrees, and it falls to 4:42. Then on June 21st, another good pass. 1.2 magnitude, 5:34, reaches its highest point at 53 degrees at 5:37. It falls to the southeast at 5:41. June 22nd, it's 23rd. 2.1 magnitude, 5:15 of the west-southwest, reaches its highest point at, let me redo that again. It's actually the second pass, 1.2 magnitude. At 21:45 local time, reaches its highest point at 21:48 at 51 degrees, and it falls to 21:51 at 10 degrees to the east-northeast. Finally, let's see, we have June 25th, and I think I'm going to call it quits after that. This one is also an excellent pass. 1.2 magnitude, 21:23 out of the west-southwest, reaches its highest point at 21:26 at 76 degrees, and it falls at 21:30 east-northeast at 10 degrees. There's much, much more. Finally, the passes are looking favorable again, but I think I'm just going to skip out on those. If you want additional information, go to heavensabove.com and look it up. When you get there, you can go ahead and log in as a user or become a user. Put in your longitude and latitude as necessary. They will give you different ways to do it, including location using your browser position or your standard longitude and latitude. There's a couple of other interesting ways they can do it as well, all with your permission. Okay, it's 10:28. I'll take any final check-ins or any final comments. Please come now. Okay, well then we'll just close it up. Tonight we had 28 check-ins, I believe, 28 check-ins participating on the air. And thanks to all who checked in this evening. We hope you join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 o'clock to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. Because on this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to the club website, which is w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray Tom, and I'll be closing the net at 22:29 local time. I'm going to say 7-3.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning
amateur use. At least for now, we will be back in 5 minutes for tonight's movie for the afterglow called The Gamma People from 1956. So go powder your noses, come back in 5 minutes, and we will start the net. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear for now.
WB50ZL with another edition of the Afterglow Movie Net. Tonight's movie is one probably nobody ever heard of. I know I hadn't. It's called The Gamma People, movie from 1956. So, do we have anybody brave enough to check in? Please come now with your name. Now, let's do your call first, and then your name, where you're located, and most importantly, are you going to admit to seeing this movie? Please come now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving. Yes, I saw this fine flick.
K0FER, Chris in Southeast Dallas, and yes, I watched it too.
KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Louisville. I did see the film. Well, part of it.
Okay, we got N5BB Bill. Yes, he saw it. K0FER Chris. Yes, he saw it. KE5ICX Tom. Yes, he saw it. Okay, do we have any Echolink check-ins?
Golf 5, Bravo Zulu with Sorry, hear myself on the rail here. Yes, I saw the movie.
Okay, we picked up KG5BZWJ, who saw the movie. Any other check-ins now?
Could give him poor Tom a heart attack. Whiskey Tango 9er Victor. Michael, no, I didn't see the movie.
Okay, WT9V, Michael, welcome to the net. I'm sorry you didn't see it. No, I'm glad you didn't see it. But you could talk about probably any other crummy science fiction movie you've ever seen, and who would know the difference? They're all interchangeable. All right, anybody else?
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf Cruise. Yes, I saw the film.
I'm sorry, would you come back with your call sign again, Cruz?
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf Cruise, and you saw the film. Okay, great. All right, we're going to get started. Now, we have a synopsis of this film, which we read during Skynet, but I'm going to read it again. And it's extremely accurate, if I can find it. Here we go. The conductor eyed the two people in car 6. One was a reporter and the other his evil twin, a photographer. He knew both could be in trouble, could be trouble. The rail line had a terrible safety record. In fact, it lost half the passengers of this particular route just last week. They even had to refund money to the families. That was an expensive proposition. These guys might know about the horrendous safety record. The conductor took drastic action and unhooked the rail car. Both men were somewhat dull and didn't realize the car was now disconnected. The train chugged into the sunset. Their car came to a stop on a side track. The rider said to his photographer, I don't think we are in Kansas anymore. They gazed at the mad scientist who was standing with his gamma ray machine, irradiating local children. Some became geniuses, others would become conductors on a rail line that regularly lost their passengers. Join us for the gamma people. Honestly, I can't make up something any weirder than this movie script. All right. Now here's what really happened. A railroad passenger car carrying a reporter and his photographer mysteriously breaks away from its locomotive, accidentally ending up in a remote sidetrack in Gudavia, an isolated Ruritarian-style one-village Eastern Bloc dictatorship. It was filmed in Austria, so that fits. The newsmen discover a mad scientist using gamma rays to turn the country's youth into either geniuses or subhumans, all at the bidding of an equally mad dictator. Now, there's something I miss. It's like why gamma rays would turn some into geniuses and some into dullards. Maybe I missed that, and some of you smart people could explain that to me, because I just didn't quite understand that. Now, I read about gamma rays on my friend Wiki, and gamma rays are actually very dangerous to people. Irradiating people with gamma rays would be a really bad idea, and I just didn't get the part. Maybe I missed some of the science in this movie. I did not get the point of how this would turn people into geniuses. So if anybody knows that, please explain it to me. Okay, we're going to go down the list and talk about the plot. So, first up, N5BB. Bill, tell us what you thought about the plot of this fine film.
Okay, Brenda, this is N5BB. Well, to tell you the truth, I kind of liked this film, believe it or not, compared to some of the other things we saw, for various reasons. I thought the plot at some points was toying, and maybe this was a directing, maybe this was the writing. It was toying with being a comedy. It was just toying with that. It never was funny, but there's some parts of it that, to me, were borderline comedic. And so that's something about the plot. I did not understand how in the world the car they were on really ended up there. It looked like the pin just had a mechanical failure and fell out. But it wasn't obvious why the kids ran out there and switched the thing to cause the car to end up stuck there. Maybe they were just being bad kids. It wasn't obvious. It didn't seem to be a reason for it. Because nobody knew they were going to be there. It wasn't by design. In fact, BB. So that part was kind of mysterious to me. A little bit of a weird plot point there. Some other things about the plot. They were having trouble figuring out where to eat. They didn't have any food in the hotel. And when they walked down the street, everything was closed. How did they survive several days without eating or drinking anything? You know, it seemed to be a big concern for them the moment they got there, but then that concern went away. So that did bother me about the plot. I also didn't understand how the woman scientist, what exactly was, why was she kind of stuck there? I didn't understand that at all. And were those two kids, were they her kids that had been taken away from her? It's kind of implied, but I didn't exactly understand that. But anyway, I agree the gamma ray thing made no sense at all. But of course, some of these science fiction movies are more fiction than science. I also didn't understand why there were a couple of scenes where you had these little metal caps that came down on top of people's heads, but that had nothing to do with the big scene with the gamma ray projector projecting through the wall toward the glass wall toward them. So again, there were a lot of weird plot things. I still kind of like the movie though. In 5BB, that's all I got about the plot.
Okay, K0FER. Chris, what did you think about the plot?
I'm with Bill on this. I think that if you approach this movie appreciating its camp and appreciating its that it doesn't take itself too seriously, I think that is a much better way to enjoy this film and get the most out of it. The main character had a bunch of zingers, snarky, pithy sayings here and there, and I think that's where most of the attempted humor is. Not to say that this film was unfunny, but it wasn't really funny. But it works better as a comedy than as a sci-fi film. The sci-fi elements of this, be it the pseudo-zombies or the gamma rays or the helmets that look like a B-shoot for a Devo music video, are a little, well, stupid. About the train, though, that Bill brought up, I think what the kids were doing is where they were responding to a signal from the engineer to where he tooted his horn to switch the tracks. I think that was a planned signal, not to send a broken car down to Gavudia, whatever it was, but rather that's just how the train system ran when they don't have a telegraph, when they don't have any other sort of communication. Just my 2 cents. That's my thinking of what happened there. The rest of the plot was, yay, let's rise up against tyranny. Lots of borderline Nazi references. I mean, the little kid Hans looked like he was straight out of Hitler Youth. And the whole pursuit of willing to sacrifice a bunch of people and making them dumb in order to create a sort of master race-ish sort of thing. Just had strong fascism vibes. Anyway, that's what I thought about the plot. K0FER.
Thank you. Okay, Tom, K5ICX. Tell us what you thought.
Okay, well, I found it, it had a nice hook to it, the mystery in the town, what was going on, and certainly there were some spooky scenes in it that really worked well when the kids attack our two intrepid protagonists in the thing. That seemed very interesting. I liked the idea of that. The town being contained and there's nowhere you could go or anything you do. It had shades of The Prisoner, and I suspect it's possible that Patrick McGowan, who produced that television series in 1968, I believe it was, may have used this as an inspiration or as a possible tool to make that work. I liked the idea. I thought it was interesting. The hook was there, and I kept watching it until it just kept going on. And I fell asleep. But apparently I didn't miss much, because when I woke up, they were happy, the music was playing, so apparently I'd seen that the castle was on fire, so the evil, mean, naughty Nazi guy who was running the thing, the scientist, had died or had succumbed to the fire, which is pretty typical of mad scientists, as we've seen in any Frankenstein movie where the castle is caught on fire. Very similar to this one. Now, I'm not so sure. I'm reading under the production notes here that on the same page that you read, that they did this because of what was happening with, what they say, causing cells to mutate, and probably too. But I did look up gamma rays, and WebMD did come up with something that I thought was interesting, talking about them. They are, your brain is constantly, during these activities, brain cells constantly communicate with each other, and they are called brain waves. The gamma brain waves are one such wave pattern created by your brain. So it performs processes like thinking, concentrating, remembering, and oh so much more. Now, did our director and producer and writer know that? Probably not. It was probably an accidental coincidence. But in any case, I thought it was an interesting idea. And notice that every letter that begins with a C ended up being a K, because, well, that's what you do when you're in Eastern Europe. Apparently, they're below sea level. They don't have a lot of them, so you had to use a K. There's my terrible attempt at being Chaz this evening. So the ending was a little too pat for me. They suddenly burn everything down, and I agree with Bill. I heard his comment about that big gun that they used to try and cook their brains. It's going to get, and it was done in temperature. I don't know what no encephalogram, none of that stuff. We just take a temperature and we run it up until their brain is cooked, I guess. Very weird, I thought. In any case, it was odd that they did that, and then they used the little hat things for the kids. And why just kids? Well, of course, there were the other villagers there, too, so I don't know. You got to do something with the kids. They probably can't go to school, and they smoke cigarettes and shoot zip guns, so this was a way of giving them something to do after school, perhaps. I don't know. I think it would have been easier just to give them a carton of cigarettes and let them smoke, and it's a lot less expensive. But if you're going to do that sort of thing, and you want to be on the forefront of science, why not do that? Okay, well, I guess that's all I've got on this round. The characters are quite interesting, or not. We'll get that on the next round. So back to you, Ms. Brenda. This is KE5ICX.
Okay, KG5 BZWJ, what did you think?
KG5EGW.
No, I was doubling with somebody there. I'm using Echo Link here. I was about to call the gamma ray thing Spider-Man logic, but it turns out Spider-Man came out in 1962. So it's possible that Spider-Man, the author of Spider-Man, the first comic, stole some of the ideas from this and other movies of magical properties of radioactive stuff per, Hollywood logic. I agree with Bill and others have said that this kind of really is a kind of a comedy, but not quite. It's with the from the first scene where the British and American journalists just being completely clueless about what was going on, which is really hard to understand, but there were a lot of clueless people in this film as written, and it soon became clear to me that they were actually written to be clueless, at least for comedic effect. I also thought the joke was, I keep on thinking of series and things that come late after, like, the 50s. Like, it seems the American journalist was kind of pulling some Columbo moves, but, Columbo was also a 60s thing. But, not really much science in this science fiction, of course. Especially, that weird gun and the temperature thing, that made no sense. It was a weird thing for dramatic effect that just was in and of itself. I don't know how to finish that sentence, but it really, it didn't. It was there for dramatic effect. That's it. That's all they had to do. Increase the tension by literally increasing something, and that's just what they did. What else to say? I did watch this in a few different parts. So I think it did make it a little bit more tolerable. But in the end, I didn't really hate watching those parts compared to other films, which is just why, what, how. There actually seemed to be a capital flow to the movie, even though the overall, after you go out of the theater experience, is like, there's a lot of stuff that didn't quite make sense there, but anyway, whatever. I thought it is for the popcorn and the I don't know, whatever else. Whatever these movies are for, I can think considerable things, but I don't know if all those apply either. I don't have anything else. Back to net control. This is KG5 Mississippi.
Thank you. WT9V, Michael, do you want to make comments on the plot of the show you didn't see?
Well, I could. I probably wouldn't make much less sense than any other time that I'm making comments, but I think I'll hold off at the moment and not embarrass myself terribly in front of everyone, he says, and just pick up maybe later, like on another show when I've actually seen it. But I just did want to point out that there apparently is a big difference between gamma rays and gamma waves. And I think it's important that we know which one we're talking about. But I'm not sure. WT9Z.
Well, you're so right. Gamma waves are in our brain, like like alpha waves are when you're calm and peaceful. Gamma rays are when you're concentrating and working hard. And gamma rays, or like X-rays, they are extremely harmful to human critters. So I'm not quite sure. It is very confusing. I had to look it up because I didn't know. But, anyway, it's just another movie using science to build a better world. Okay, KI5KWG Cruz, it's your turn. Go ahead.
KI5KWG. All right, let's see. Going to my notes here. I saw this with the idea of 1954 being the year after Stalin's death. And late last year I was reading a lot, but not all of the Gulag Archipelago. And there's a horror film for you. So I was picking up on the political aspects of this, and I jotted down paraphrases early in the movie, something about good and evil, who wins. Another comment, semi-quote, was, it's not good to answer questions in such a place, nor ask them. And a third one was, no place for sentimentality at the end of the film. The brown shirt kid says, no place for sentimentality, meaning family, in such things. And so that kind of hit me in the Stalinist period of Russia, and of course the just 8 years, I guess it was, after the end of World War II under Hitler in Europe. So, well, I'm going to come back to that in a second. Let me reset. So the first thing I noted is we have yet another film with dissociative personality disorder, with the kind of blending of comic and horror together. On the other hand, the next night after watching this film, I watched Fargo and realized I was watching a horror film that blended comedy almost seamlessly. So sometimes it works. This time I didn't think it did. As for the actual plot, the politics comes into it. Evil nature of totalitarian state. Only the amorally obedient rise to power. That's what we saw in this film. That fits with the Stalinists as well as the Nazis. It's obviously fresh in the minds of everybody in Europe, being a British film. I thought it kind of odd and a failure that we see a citizens' revolt as the response to that. And I thought that the citizens' revolt was, what's the term? God out of the machine. Deus ex machina. And it never happens. And we didn't see it coming. There was nothing in the beginning of the film to suggest that the people were ready to revolt, that there was going to be any chance of success of that. It just happens, and that's how the film ends, happily ever after. And that doesn't happen in real life. That doesn't happen in history. I can't name one situation where it wasn't really a state power behind any coup or revolt over a totalitarian state. I may be wrong. What is this comment? I'm sorry. I said, nor do family betray, the state to save themselves, and that came from the Gulag Archipelago. It just doesn't happen. My last comment on the plot is, Merrick, I thought it'd be interesting. Well, no, I'm going to save that. That really fits characterization better. So I'm going to go back to you, Brenda, and Net. This is KI5KWG.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more check-ins now?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen the movie.
KB9 SOK, Sean, go ahead and tell us what you think about the plot.
Yeah, this is KB9 SOK. This movie was definitely different. In some respect, there was little pieces of it that it definitely had my interest. I kind of almost liked this film, just didn't quite get there. I agree. The beginning was, it looked like to me it was planned. It seems like whether they were using some enhanced abilities from the kids to make that pin break, but clearly those two kids that were dressed from that town were there, and they were clearly waiting for that car. So it does seem like it was planned. Maybe this was somewhat of a plan to try to get help to start that rebellion, but yeah, they never really quite explained it. I agree, there seemed like a comedy attempt, but it fell pretty flat for the most part there. Yeah, the whole gamma ray thing was kind of ridiculous. I agree. I think somebody did ask why the kids. He did make a comment, the dictator there, the scientist, that it worked. It's more effective on the kids. It seemed like when they I think he says along the lines when the adults is when it turned them into goons. It did not work well for adults, but it seemed to was a lot more effective for children. So that's why they did that. And I do believe, and maybe I misunderstood it, but I think there at the very end, the lady assistant, it was actually that the kid was actually her son. That's why she was trapped there, and that's why she was appealing to him there at the very end when they were getting ready to kill her with the rays, and that's why he created the distraction. So I believe that was her child, and that's why she was trapped. But yeah, I mean, I agree with what everybody said on this, and I didn't think about the politics part. That was a good point to bring out. That part I hadn't thought about. So I really don't have a whole lot to add to the plot on this thing. Just wanted to point out a few of those questions I think people had. So yeah, back to net, KB9, that's okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's my turn. It's not as bad as a lot of other movies we've seen, particularly given it was in the 50s. I'll bet if it were filmed in color, it would have been stunning. I really would have loved to have seen that. But, oh well. Yeah, in the 50s, we were still under the specter of World War II, and that shows here. We got the dreaded Nazis everywhere. The plot seemed a little contrived. Well, a lot contrived. But it's no worse than any other movie. You've got to do something to make this work. So you've got people inexplicably stranded in an isolated village that has no contact with the outside world. And there's no telegraph, there's no car, there's no train service. There's just, totally isolated, which I guess is how you get away with performing lethal experiments on children. I wasn't quite sure what the point of that. I guess it's the master race. But, the Germans did a lot of unthinkable things to children as well that if you put it in a movie, somebody would say, oh, nobody would ever believe that. But, it's a setup. Two guys come into a small town and things are not right, and it takes a little while to figure out what's going on. I think the thing devolves with the dark scenes, like so many movies do. Everything's too dark, and that's how they save money on their budget. And you can't really tell who's chasing who or who gets killed or what's going on, and it's hard to follow. And that's kind of where it devolves with all this racing around and chasing each other in the story. I kind of lost interest in that. But in the end, everything was happy, and we had alpine outfits, cute lederhosen and little aprons, and people dancing and singing, and everybody's happy. So, we liked all that, and Heidi was saved, and so everything is wonderful. All right, let's go back up to the top. We're going to talk about characterization. N5BB, Bill, what did you think about the characters?
Thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB. By the way, just responding to a few of the plot things. Tom, the gamma rays and gamma waves are unrelated. I think that maybe you were confused, but I definitely wasn't confused. By the way, gamma waves in the brains were only discovered about a decade after this film was made. So nobody had ever heard of anything called a gamma wave when this film was made. There was gamma rays, which are, of course, are electromagnetic radiation. Anyway, so I agree with the political kind of connections. And by the way, there was a movie, or there's a book later made into a Peter Sellers movie, The Mouse That Roared, about a weird little country in Europe. And it came out a couple of years before this movie was made. The book did. And so that may have had a little bit of an influence about a weird little mysterious country in Europe. Anyway, getting back to the characterization. The two protagonists, the British and the American guy, were... Well, the British guy was pretty bumbling, kind of a bumbling fool kind of guy. And the American guy was a little bit of an American bumbling fool, kind of pretentious, and he thought he was going to get his way, etc. N5BB. And the actor that portrayed that was good at those kind of roles. By the way, he died early he was a heavy cigarette smoker and died at age 52. Couple years after this movie was made. Anyway, but I thought they characterized them in ways that made it kind of comical. That was some of the comic part of this. Of course, I guess the colonel, the police guy there in the little country was made to be a complete fool. Of the end, you find out that he would go with whoever's in charge. But that was kind of overplayed, I think. But that was that. The other characters, there was a characterization of various other characters through it that were okay, I guess. There wasn't a lot of backstory. You didn't really learn why the evil doctor became evil. What really happened there? Was he just psychotic, or why did he go off and do that? That wasn't very clear. But the other people, you kind of learn about them. So I don't know. I thought the characterizations were done reasonably well for a movie of this type. Although you don't hear anything about their backstories. Nothing about their lives other than the little snippet you see here. But that's typical for this kind of movie. I think that's everything I got about characterization. N5BB.
Okay, K0FER, Chris, what did you think about the characters?
real complaints, actually. I don't think they had a whole lot to work with, but they made their characters within that little operetta reasonably believable. Even the kids came across as, suitably Nazi. I liked that I actually recognized one of the actors, the bumbling British guy. I believe he was in his voice. He's like in Harry Potter. I think he's the Sorting Hat guy. And I've seen him in other things. I don't know if it's like Pink Panther or a Doctor Who episode or something like that, but he was fairly familiar to me. The main actress, played by Ava Bartok, was, your ingenue. But a well-played ingenue. Not a whole lot of depth, but there's not a lot of depth to the role. So I think the actors brought good craft to ho-hum content and made the best of it. KZ or FER.
All right, K5ICX, characterization.
Oh, dear God, how can I answer this question? Let's see. Our two comic reliefs, which are the photographer and the writer, were kind of tiring, I guess. They didn't seem all that smart. I mean, they didn't seem overly upset about the fact that they couldn't get out of town or any of that. And after they got attacked, it's like by the kids, the one guy did, and then they run off. It's like, oh, okay. That happens all the time in a small town like this. So, and then it happens again, and he seems surprised again. He seemed very smart to me, but what do I know? Our little Hitler guy, he was annoying, but that's to be expected. But isn't it great? All you need is a change of clothes, some long pants, and you become the perfect gentleman. It wasn't the gamma rays. The gamma rays? I always get it mixed. Yes. The gamma rays that caused him to be, evil. It was the short pants. I'll bet you what happened is that it was cold. They ski in Austria and they do all sorts of things. So maybe it was just cold in whatever the town of, Gudavia, that place, the Good Day place. Yeah. So, yeah, I can see that's why he became grumpy. It's nice that let's see, who else was sort of interesting. You got Hugo went. Where did Hugo went? Yeah. He went to wherever. Let's see, who else have we got? I'm looking through the list. I'm trying to remember who these people were and what they did. And I'm finding I can't remember because, quite honestly, they were nondescript and really boring. Our evil leader guy who was in charge of everything, he was suitably maniacal. I thought that was kind of interesting. And over the top, as you would expect. But then again, and I'm not entirely sure about this because I'm going to go on a site. Albert Broccoli was included in this, who helped to form Warwick Productions. Now, he's the guy that did all the James Bond movies, produced all the James Bond movies through the years. So maybe this super villain was inspiration for the entire James Bond series. What do you think? Because it wouldn't be until, 1961, I think it was, for James Bond? I can't recall for sure. But it wasn't with Warwick Studios. It was with his own studios. Well, I digress. Let me see. Anything else about the characters that I loved or hated? Not really. I don't have a lot to say. Hedda was okay. The people at the wonderful hotel that nobody could stay at because it's in this little town, that didn't make any sense. But I digress on that one, too. and the restaurant that's never open, and the telegraph office that's never open, with the the telegraph clerk. Oh well. All right. I don't have anything to say. I got nothing for you. So, give it to somebody who knows what the heck they're talking about. This is KE5ICX.
Okay. Jay, KG5BZW. Go ahead. It's your turn.
BZW. Yeah, I don't know this. There's so much in this place that doesn't really make sense. The telegraph station that's just never open. How can that even work? That's just has to be some form of reliability testing or something to make sure your telegraphs actually get out. So, whatever. And, okay, but, we're running characters, so, yeah, I already addressed some of the stuff. It was kind of interesting to me when I what am I trying to say? How instantly the journalist knew all about this. What's the guy's name? The Boronsky guy that was at first just on his, like on the tip of they were only on the tip of remembering who this guy was, and then all of a sudden they remembered, oh yeah, this guy used to be a good guy, and then just it's like they had like Google or something or whatever. I don't know, maybe they had the library in the hotel that could have given some clue, but they didn't really go into that. Excuse me, one sec. Okay, then there's the I don't know, there's Paul Wind, or Eva Bartok as Paul Wind. I don't know what to say, but she played the woman. It's kind of a generic character. Really don't know what to say. I think of any of the other characters that had anything interesting. It really wasn't that much. Oh man, I've got hiccups right now. Okay, I'll hand it to the next person. KG5BZW.
All right, WT9V, Michael, do you have anything to add?
I've been trying to think of something to add, and I can't think of anything to add at the moment, because I can't think of anything to add. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. WT9V.
All right. Well, you could tell us all about gamma rays. In the poster, some of the people who had been irradiated had little gamma symbols on their forehead. I don't remember if they had that in the movie or not. I don't remember that part. If anybody else remembers, please let me know. I guess that's an interesting side effect. So if you were hit with X-rays, you'd have a little X on your forehead. Okay, KI5KWG, cruise. Characterization, please.
KI5KWG. Let's see, I don't have much here. I'm still in my political mode because that's the way I was watching it. I thought it interesting that a British film portrayed the American as what we would now call the ugly American. He was rude, he was insulting of other cultures, and yet he was the strong and heroic one to a rather timid British partner. And it was the American who came off as the savior when it was all done. I thought that was an interesting feature of the Mike character. And by the way, Mike, Paul Douglas, he seemed familiar to me, as did Ava Bartok. The actor, Paul Douglas, seemed familiar, but I looked him up and I didn't recognize anything. And same with Ava Bartok. That name really struck me, but I didn't recognize any of her filmography. As Jay commented, I noted that he mentioned the Colombo association with the American's character, and that hadn't occurred to me. And what I had written down is Laurel and Hardy for the pair, and Colombo might be a better one than that. I think that's all I've got on characterization. Yeah, that's it. So KI5KWG. Back to you, Nat.
Okay, KB9SOK. Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Not a lot to add on the characterization. I kind of felt like the bad guy there was kind of like a Bond villain. So that's an interesting connection there. He played that well. I mean, I guess. I agree with everybody said. I really don't have a whole lot to add there. I will just kind of say I feel like this would have been a better movie had it been shorter, because it did seem like the beginning of it did kind of drag, and had this been maybe like a Twilight episode or something like that, this would have been, I think, a lot more enjoyable, because, there was a lot of running around stuff that didn't really add anything. But, none of these characters really, I just agree with what everybody said with how the characters were. Not a lot there. Back to that, KB9SOK.
Okay, this is WB50ZL. Do we have any more check-ins?
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony and Dallas. I did not see the movie.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Welcome, Tony. Well, you can still make comments about this. Talk about just any other science fiction movie would probably be relevant. Did you have anything to add?
Well, I think I've enjoyed hearing people on the net more than I would have enjoyed this movie, which is why I wanted to check in and say thank you, Brenda, and thank you everybody for participating. I just heard a comment that I agree with without seeing the movie, which is that it should have been shorter. That's my solution to almost all of these movies if they're not good enough. Yeah, make it a Twilight Zone episode, make it a little Monty Python sketch kind of thing, maybe 3 minutes long. Make them shorter. If you have less material, have less movie. That would seem to go hand in hand, except the people who make imperfect movies. But that's all I have is just wanting to say thank you. NT5 Tia.
Alrighty, well, it's my turn then to make my comments about characterization. It's just, there was nobody interesting in this movie. No famous actors, no I just hadn't seen anybody, and so they weren't all that much fun to watch. And everything was long shots. You didn't get good close-ups of people's faces, which really helped with the acting and the characterization. And running around, it's hard in the dark. It's hard to tell who was who. So, I think it was okay, the characterization. The music was incredibly annoying. It was too loud and too fast. And I just didn't think it was quite appropriate for the movie, but that's just me. This movie was paired with the 1956 film 1984 as a double feature when it was released. I just really wonder how people came out of the theater. That's a lot of sitting at one time, but 1984 is such an amazing classic, and then this movie put with it, I would be curious to know people's take on that. But, the little boy there, they certainly tried to make him look like a Nazi. So, clearly a political statement about that. He was a little over the top. And I think a lot of the characters were a little over the top. All right. I'll stop there. Let's go back up to the top. We're going to talk now about anything you want. Special effects, music, costumes, and anything you'd like to discuss. N5BB, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB. One comment about something that somebody else said. Somebody said that they thought the British actor they had seen in certain other things. I think you may have been thinking about Terry Thomas. That's hyphenated, TERRY-THOMAS. Some of those British actor kind of characterizations were slightly similar to this actor. But this actor, Leslie Phillips, was in our movie, and he was in lots and lots of things. And he's been in things within the last decade. He's an old guy now, but he's still around. He was even a voice actor on some Harry Potter movies. He was the Hat. He was the voice of a hat. So he's done a jillion things. Paul Douglas, the other protagonist, he was in all kinds of stuff back in the 50s. So I remember seeing him. He was on TV things. Alfred Hitchcock, Playhouse 90. He was in various movies. He was a rather, famous actor and if he hadn't died early at age 52, you'd have heard a lot more about him in the 60s. I agree. He was the bumbling, kind of nasty American. He played that pretty well. This is N5BB. Other things about the movie, I agree about its kind of communist takeoff, slightly Nazi, but mostly kind of communist takeoff. Other things, I like the music. There was quite a bit of music, including the girl that was, playing the piano like crazy. And there was some other music. Remember when they did the festival, which the bad guys tried to stop, but the population said, no, we're going to go and do the carnival anyway. And there was all this music. So I really liked the music in this. Well, I think without the music, it would have been very bland. But I think both the girl playing the piano, N5BB, and the music of the carnival really added to the whole feeling of the movie. I thought the photography was reasonably good, although the print I saw through YouTube had the same problem as a lot of those other 50s black and white movies. A lot of the scenes were way too dark for me to see them very well. So any of the scenes that were supposed to have been in the nighttime or the evening were so dark I just had a hard time figure out what was going on. And I think a lot of that was just the old prints and the transfer over to video. The contrast was too high. Anyway, I thought the writing was kind of interesting on this movie. Like I say, it had a little bit of that kind of tongue-in-cheek part of it. And, I mean, some parts of it, I just think about it. Think about the boy that did not want the photograph to be taken. And so what happened? So the guy, the British guy, was out there waving. Well, number one, he left the photograph hanging in his room, and the boy broke in and very ingeniously stole it, which was a pretty cool, I think, it's pretty cool acting and a pretty good writing in that scene. On how the boy kind of acted like he was in there to play chess or something, but he actually stole the photograph. And then later, what did the bumbling British guy do? He comes out waving the negative out in his hand. And, of course, the kids come and take the negative from him. I thought that was kind of interesting writing, and it kind of added something to the movie. So it wasn't, to me, it wasn't a good movie. But for a B movie, I think it was a pretty good B movie. That's all I got, N5BB.
Okay, K0FER, Chris, what do you have to say?
Not much. I agree with Bill. I did enjoy the music. It was actually a memorable tune with some decent orchestration. It was used throughout in various variations, including the very discordant carnival scene. The piano pieces that were being played, I don't know, the first two I think were Mozart and Bach, and then the ones you wanted was Traumerei by Schumann, who is not a very popular composer of the Third Reich, I believe, but somebody could check me on that. Yeah, but that's all I have to add. K0FER.
All right, K5ICX, Tom, give us your thoughts.
Well, I think some folks actually, have brought it up, and this is true, generally speaking, of any of these movies, particularly the ones from the 50s. Although they can be any era, having to do with a good idea that has to manage to be over an hour long, an hour and 10 minutes. In these cases, would make very good and interesting Twilight Zone episodes. This was no exception. This could have been a good 30-minute or 27-minute, 26-minute episode. I think if it were placed in the right hands, although they had some pretty good people that were in the production area, they just couldn't get the right people in the film. Dick Powell was one. Robert Aldrich was supposed to be involved with the film, and of course Broccoli, as I mentioned earlier, from the James Bond series. You would think that with these people they could have done something with it, but they didn't end up with those folks as much as they could have. By the way, I think you're thinking of Bela Bartok, not Ava Bartok. Just say the Hungarian composer. If you're into classical music, I too went with the Bartok thing, trying to think who that was, and that's what came to mind. So perhaps that. I think there was a character on Star Trek named Bartok too. You'll have to look that one up. I'm not sure. If this was handled with better people in control and at the helm, I think they could have really done something with it. They could have tightened up the writing, brought in somebody who could fix the script, a script doctor. I think it could have been really good. It could have become The Prisoner. I don't know, something like that. But music, I was fine with it. I thought the photography was pretty good as well, except that we were watching a very poor copy of the film. There must have been something better out there, but I have a sneaking suspicion this film is in public domain and everybody in the world has a copy of it. All of them terrible. Oh yeah, Warwick says he wanted Trevor Howard to co-star. That would have been a good choice, no doubt about it. So I think, though, because there's enough, bone in the film, that there's enough of an idea there that it kind of stands up in spite of the ineptness. And I go back and watch this film. Probably the parts that I fell asleep through, for sure. But I thought it was interesting. There were some areas that were just completely unbelievable, such as the passenger car driving down the hill for miles and miles and miles, the train conductor and the train people never noticing that the car has broken away. I would think that the train itself would feel lighter. Those cars are not exactly lightweight, and that somehow the speed would have increased some. They would have noticed and say, hey, look, the train is, the last car is missing, or the conductor went and fell down onto the tracks when he went to get the tickets from the only two passengers in the last car. How often does that happen? Never. But I think you mentioned, Brenda, or I'd read it. You mentioned it, Brenda. I'm sure it would have been very interesting in color. Would have been a better film. I could see them making this film today. I really could, and it'd be very interesting. They can even keep the gamma people and change the premise a little bit more. We have the technology to transform people anyway, mentally. With all our drugs and all the things that go along with it, there might be something interesting there they could have done that wouldn't have been a supervillain type character. And maybe more subtly done. I don't know. Then I guess we get into the Manchurian Candidate, right? So all these films I'm suggesting been built around or after this film actually have been done and done better. Oh, that's it for me. I'm just rambling. Back to you, Brendan. KE5ICX.
Alrighty. KGBZW, Jay, go ahead.
This is KG5BZW. Two things I wanted to say. I had to switch versions about 20 minutes into the film. So the version I was watching, it was just really dark in terms of what you could see. It just didn't see anything, and I did manage to find a copy that is a lot better in terms of visibility. There's maybe a few parts where you couldn't really see much, but it's much better than the first, so I guess there's that. Then I learned of I don't know if I want to call it a favorite word or what, but it's something I just came recently learned about. I think I've learned about it before a long time ago, but I just forgot about it. And it turns out, it's interesting. It's the dress style, the way it's dressed. Traditional German kind of thing, eternal. And if you look at the actual spelling of it, it doesn't look like it's supposed to be a word because there's there's only one vowel in it. DIRNDL. So it's just kind of a random observation. Of course, there'll be journals and this filming. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's apparently you got it's like a stop T in the middle of it or something. That second D is not really pronounced so much as it's a gap in pronunciation, as I understand it. But I mean, journalism, cute things, I guess. I don't know. It's just, but I'm more appreciative of its weird spelling than the style. But it's interesting nonetheless, because I learned of that. A place where I never would have expected to have learned of it, but I learned it nonetheless, and now I can use it to describe things as a film. So there you go. All right, that's all I got. KG5BCW, back to net.
Okay, thank you. WT9V, Michael, do you have any final comments?
No, I'm just trying to get my friend up in Maine to, get interested in this and join us next week, and et cetera, et cetera. WT9B.
Well, keep trying. All right, KI5KWG, Cruise. What did you think? What other thoughts do you have? Final thoughts?
KI5KWG. Well, first on final thoughts is related to trying to get a friend on that. It was about a year ago. I was up in Saginaw just passing through. I wasn't living here at the time, and I'm in Arlington now. But I was just scanning with my mobile radio, and one evening, and must have been a Saturday night, and I'm pretty sure, Brenda, it was your voice that was net control on that night, and it was the Afterglow movie net that I heard, and I went, these are my people. I listened to that net, never checked in, but I was loving it, and that was all the way out in Saginaw. I think maybe y'all were tied in with some other repeaters, maybe we still are. So just put that out there. You got me hooked, and when I came back, I found this repeater and found this net, so here I am. By the way, what did y'all do to the antenna? The reception today is just phenomenal. Just best it's been in 6 months. Okay, now back to the movie. Over the last week, I drive a lot, and over the last week, I've been listening to some books and went through Frankenstein and Island of Dr. Moreau, those novels. And just to point out, y'all talking about the gamma rays, there was no scientific explanation in either of those, other than vivisection, rather, in the Island of Dr. Moreau, but no real scientific explanation. You just kind of put it out there, and it is what it is. So you just take that as part of the plot. So anyway, I kind of took this one that same way. Now, music, y'all talked about, several of you complimented. I was kind of laughing at the carnival music because all I could think of was every swashbuckling movie I have ever seen out of Britain has the same kind of music that we heard in the British carnival music. And I was like, they're wearing lederhosen. We need oompa. And the only percussion was a xylophone. I was like, this is just straight out of Ivanhoe or maybe Robin Hood, I'm not sure. That amused me. And now I'm so surprised no one else mentioned this. The Star Trek door sound effects. No one else mentioned that. But that just amused me so much. They acted just like the Enterprise doors, and they sounded just like the Enterprise doors, and I thought that was really kind of amusing. Do I have anything else on special effects or music? Nope, that's it. pardon me, my radio told me I needed to reset. So I'll make it real quick here. I'm curious about this group, if maybe there could be a poll. I would have a pretty significant, several logistics problems getting out there on field day. But if this group is going to be well represented, I think that might be worthwhile for me to take on. So I wouldn't mind hearing a poll of this of who's planning on going to field day. That's all I've got for y'all. I sure enjoy this. This is KI5KWG. Back to you, Net.
Okay. NT5TM Tony, do you have anything to add?
I don't, but I'm sure hoping to be there Saturday night to watch the bad movie in person, NT5TM.
Yes, we are looking forward to that. Okay, my final comments. I don't really have much to add. Everybody has had a lot of wonderful comments, and I agree with most everything everybody has said. I'm glad we watched this. It expands our horizons a little bit. And I've got a comment, KB9SOK. Did I call on you?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. No, you skipped me, but that's okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Did I skip you or not?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, you skipped over me. I didn't really have much to add to what was being said, so that was okay. Yeah, I agree with the comments. The music was okay. The movie was, like I said, I almost liked it. It was better than a lot of things we've seen, and just looking forward to the next one. Back to net, KB9SOK.
I am so sorry about that. I make a little checks by everybody's name, but I didn't do that on you. I so apologize for skipping you. Well, okay, I don't really have anything else to say. So, Tom, how about telling us about next week, KE5ICX?
All right, I'll do exactly that. This is where we deviate from the norm. Normally we would have a net on Saturday evening at 10:30 and discuss the movie, but instead we're going to have a get-together, of course, at Field Day at the DARC Field Day site. This year we'll be indoors. This will be the first time in 2 years we've been together again. And we'll be watching the movie at 10:30 until midnight. And it has been voted by, during one of the fifth Monday nets, as the worst science fiction movie we've ever watched. And it will be Battlefield Earth with that guy. Who is it? John Travolta. John Travolta is a big, tall alien with platform shoes, just like he was in Saturday Night Fever. It's almost the same movie when you think about it. So there you have it. That'll be next week. And then the following week, the following Saturday, we'll actually talk about the movie. So bring popcorn. You're fully allowed to throw popcorn at the screen if you want. It should be very entertaining. We'll have a lot to say, I'm sure, but then we'll have even more to say the following week. So that's it. That's what we'll be doing. And if you are listening and you're not aware of the movies or of how to get the movie information, you can send me an email at my call sign, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray, KE5ICX @yahoo.com, or go to Afterglow Movie on the Facebook page. That's 2 words, Afterglow and Movie, and say you'd like to join there, and it has the list of movies going forward. That's it from me. We'll see you at Field Day. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to everybody in person in field day. I hope you all come. This is, and thanks to everybody who participated in the net, and this is WB5OZL Clear.
K0FER, I have some questions about the logistics for next, the in-person viewing.
I'll take it. This is KE5ICX. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Is it at the same place as the rest of field day, or is it at a separate location, K0FER?
No, it's at the same location. Actually, we'll be showing it over the heads of the 4 people who will be on the radios at that same time. But they'll be able to see the movie, too. But we'll still be able to make a lot of noise in QRM, so... Yeah, but it'll be an air-conditioned splendor. We've been outside in the past. We've been in super production location that was really nice a few years ago. This year we're going to be wherever we are. Where are we? Now, hold on. I used to know all this stuff, but I've been kind of out of the loop and over the last 6 months for various reasons. It's at the Johnson Outpost YMCA in Farmers Branch, and so we'll be showing it. We got a nice projector. We'll be showing it on the wall or something along those lines. So it should be kind of entertaining. KE5ICX.
You had me at air conditioning. K0FER, thanks.
All right, great. Looking forward to seeing you there, Chris. We actually do have a lot of fun with it. It really is a great time, and we do end up talking about the movie afterwards for a little bit. We do talk about it while we're in. It is the one place where you can watch a movie and you can yak back and forth and nobody cares, because that's what we do. We talk about the movie. And this one's so bad, I'm sure there's plenty of things we can talk about while watching it. We'll have our own Science Fiction Theater 3000.